For nearly 7 centuries, one royal title has carried a mysterious shadow. It was created to represent power, prestige, and a future crown. Yet again and again, the women who wore it found themselves facing unimaginable heartbreak. Some lost the men they were destined to rule beside. Some watched their dreams of becoming queen disappear forever. One became the most famous royal woman in modern history, only for her story to end in tragedy. Was it a curse written into the title itself, or simply a series of extraordinary coincidences that history refuses to forget? The title was Princess of Wales, a title connected to the heir of the British throne, a symbol of a future queen, and a position surrounded by enormous expectations. But behind the royal ceremonies, beautiful gowns, and public celebrations were women whose lives were shaped by loss, political struggles, and personal battles. Their stories reveal that behind every crown and every royal title, there was a human being facing the same emotions as anyone else: love, fear, hope, and heartbreak. The first woman connected with this story takes us back to medieval England, a world of castles, rival kingdoms, and endless battles for power. Her name was Joan of Kent, known to history as the Fair Maid of Kent. Born in 1328, Joan became famous for her beauty and her connection to one of England's most powerful royal families. Her life placed her directly at the center of medieval politics, where marriages were not only about love but also about alliances, inheritance, and power. Joan eventually married Edward, the Black Prince, the eldest son of King Edward III. Edward was one of the most celebrated warriors of his generation. Victorious on the battlefield and admired throughout Europe, he seemed destined to become one of England's greatest kings. Their marriage appeared to promise a glorious future. Joan was not simply marrying a prince. She was preparing for the role of queen. The couple represented the next generation of the English monarchy. But history does not always follow the path people expect. The Black Prince, despite his military reputation and achievements, suffered from poor health. After years of illness, he died in 1376, before he could inherit the throne. For Joan, the dream of becoming queen ended before it truly began. Instead of standing beside her husband as ruler of England, she became the mother of a young heir. Her son, Richard, became king at only 10 years old after the death of Edward III. Suddenly, a child sat on one of Europe's most powerful thrones. The kingdom entered a period of political instability. Powerful nobles competed for influence, and Richard II's reign became increasingly troubled. Although Joan tried to support her son and protect the royal family, she could not control the forces surrounding the crown. Years after Joan's death, Richard II was removed from power by Henry Bolingbroke, who became King Henry IV. The dynasty that Joan had hoped to secure was changed forever. Her story became the first chapter in a long tradition of princesses of Wales whose lives were marked by unexpected turns of fate. More than a century later, another young woman arrived in England with dreams of a royal future. Her name was Katherine of Aragon. Born in 1485, Katherine was the daughter of Ferdinand II of Aragon and Isabella I of Castile, the powerful monarchs who united Spain and sponsored Christopher Columbus's famous voyage across the Atlantic. From childhood, Katherine was prepared for a royal marriage. She was educated in languages, religion, history, and politics. She was not raised simply to be a princess. She was trained to become a queen. Her destiny appeared clear when she became engaged to Prince Arthur, the eldest son of King Henry VII of England. In 1501, Katherine traveled to England. The marriage between the two teenagers was celebrated as a powerful alliance between Spain and England. The future looked extraordinary, but only months later tragedy arrived. Prince Arthur became seriously ill and died in April 1502. Katherine was only 16 years old. A young widow in a foreign land, she suddenly found herself trapped between two kingdoms. Her future was uncertain. Without Arthur, her position at the English court became complicated. Negotiations continued for years over what would happen to her. The princess who had arrived expecting a royal future was forced to wait. For years, Katherine lived in difficult circumstances. She faced financial problems and political uncertainty while powerful figures debated her fate. Then came a decision that would change history forever. Arthur's younger brother, Prince Henry, became the new heir to the throne. After long negotiations and special permission from the church, Catherine married him. When Henry VIII became king in 1509, Catherine finally achieved the position she had spent years waiting for. She became Queen of England. For a time, she appeared to have escaped the tragedy associated with her earlier life. She was respected by the English people, admired for her intelligence, and became one of Henry's closest advisors. But the happiness would not last. The greatest challenge of Catherine's life came from the question of succession. Henry desperately wanted a male heir, but Catherine's pregnancies ended in heartbreaking losses, with only one surviving child, Princess Mary. The marriage that had once united two great nations slowly became a source of conflict. Henry's desire for another marriage led to one of the most dramatic political and religious transformations in English history. His separation from Catherine eventually contributed to England breaking away from the authority of the Pope and creating the Church of England. The woman who had once arrived in England as a young princess full of hope ended her life far from the power she had once held. Katherine of Aragon's story showed a painful pattern. The title connected with royal greatness could also bring loneliness, disappointment, and sacrifice. But the legend surrounding the Princess of Wales was far from over. Centuries later, another woman would inherit the same title, waiting for a future crown that would never arrive. Her name was Augusta of Saxe-Gotha. Augusta of Saxe-Gotha entered British royal life in 1736 when she married Frederick, Prince of Wales, the eldest son of King George II. Like the princesses of Wales before her, Augusta stepped into a role filled with promise. She was the wife of the heir to the throne, and everyone expected that one day she would become queen. For 15 years, Augusta lived with that expectation. She raised her children, adapted to the traditions of the British court, and prepared for the moment when her husband would become king. But once again, history changed everything. In 1751, Frederick died suddenly at the age of 44, years before he could inherit the throne. The future that Augusta had imagined disappeared overnight. She would never sit beside him as queen. Instead, her son George became the heir, and many years later he would become King George III. Augusta played an important role in guiding her family, but the crown she had expected to wear herself remained forever beyond her reach. Her story added another chapter to the growing legend surrounding the title of Princess of Wales, a title connected with the future queen, but often followed by unexpected loss. Then came Caroline of Brunswick, whose story was not defined by sudden death, but by public humiliation and personal suffering. Caroline married George, Prince of Wales, in 1795. The marriage was arranged for political reasons, but almost immediately it became clear that the relationship was deeply unhappy. George already lived a complicated personal life, and the couple struggled to find genuine affection for each other. Their relationship deteriorated quickly, yet their daughter, Princess Charlotte, became a symbol of hope for the British people. Charlotte was loved by the nation. Many believed she represented the future of the monarchy. But tragedy struck again. In 1817, Princess Charlotte died after giving birth to a stillborn son. She was only 21 years old. Her death shocked Britain. For Caroline, the loss of her daughter was devastating. The one person who connected her to the future of the monarchy was gone. When George eventually became King George IV, Caroline expected to become queen. Instead, their bitter separation became a national scandal. The king attempted to prevent Caroline from taking the title of queen, and the conflict became a public battle watched by the entire country. In 1821, during George IV's coronation, Caroline attempted to enter Westminster Abbey, but she was refused admission. The woman who had once been Princess of Wales was denied the moment that should have marked her arrival as queen. Just weeks later, Caroline died. Her life became another example of how royal titles could bring not only privilege but also pain. The 19th century moved forward, and the monarchy entered a new era. But the pattern of unexpected loss continued. Mary of Teck's story began with a marriage that never happened. In the 1890s, Mary became engaged to Prince Albert Victor, the eldest son of the future King Edward VII. As the future wife of the heir, she appeared destined for a major role in the monarchy. But before the wedding could take place, Albert Victor died suddenly in 1892. Mary's future changed instantly. Yet another royal woman connected with the line of succession faced heartbreak before her marriage could begin. However, Mary's story took an unexpected turn. She later married Albert Victor's younger brother, Prince George. That decision changed the course of British history. George became King George V, and Mary eventually became queen. Unlike some women before her, she did reach the throne, but her journey began with a personal tragedy that shaped her life forever. Then, more than half a century later, the title of Princess of Wales would become known around the entire world. In 1981, Lady Diana Spencer married Charles, Prince of Wales. The wedding was watched by millions. Her elegant dress, youthful appearance, and emotional ceremony created the image of a modern fairy tale. The world saw Diana as the future queen. But behind the palace walls, her journey was far more complicated. Diana entered royal life at a very young age and suddenly became one of the most photographed people on earth. Every expression, every appearance, and every personal struggle became a subject of international attention. Despite the difficulties she faced, Diana transformed the meaning of royal service. She connected with ordinary people in a way few royals had done before. She visited hospitals, supported charities, raised awareness for important causes, and became known for her compassion. But her marriage to Charles eventually broke down. In 1996, their divorce was finalized. The woman who had once represented a new beginning for the monarchy was now facing life outside the royal family. Then came the tragedy that shocked the world. On August 31, 1997, Diana died in a car crash in Paris. The news spread across the globe within hours. Millions mourned her death. Flowers filled the streets outside royal residences, and people remembered not only a princess but a woman who had touched countless lives. For many, Diana became the strongest reason behind the belief that the title of Princess of Wales carried a dark history. But history is not controlled by a curse. The truth is more complex. The women who held this title lived during different centuries, different societies, and different challenges. Their stories were shaped by politics, illness, personal choices, and circumstances beyond their control. Today, Catherine, Princess of Wales, carries the same historic title. Like the women before her, she faces enormous public attention and expectations. But the past does not decide the future. The story of the Princess of Wales is not truly a story of a cursed title. It is a story of remarkable women who stood at the center of history. Women who experienced love and loss. Women who faced pressure few people could imagine. Women whose lives became connected forever with one of the most famous royal titles on earth. For nearly 700 years, the title of Princess of Wales has witnessed moments of celebration, heartbreak, and transformation. And perhaps the greatest mystery is not why tragedy followed some of these women, but how, despite everything they faced, they continued to leave their mark on history. Because behind every crown is not just royalty. There is a human story,